Sure, here's a full 3,000-word script for an 18-minute YouTube video about the 1998 Toyota Corolla, tailored for the Motor Authority channel. This script avoids headings, visuals, and host prompts, focusing solely on the narration. The Toyota Corolla. Say the name, and it evokes thoughts of reliability, practicality, and efficiency. But in the late 90s, particularly in 1998, the Corolla wasn't just a sensible choice, it was a dominant force, an unshakable symbol of Toyota's growing global influence, and a masterclass in no-nonsense engineering. The 1998 Corolla marked the 8th generation of this iconic nameplate, a generation that refined everything people had come to love about the car without making too many waves. And that's precisely why it worked so well. In 1998, Toyota wasn't trying to revolutionize the compact sedan. They didn't have to. Instead, they focused on fine-tuning an already successful formula, improving build quality, enhancing efficiency, and making ownership even more painless. It's the kind of car you buy when you don't want to think about your car. And yet, decades later, the 1998 Corolla is still remembered, not for being flashy or fast, but for being a benchmark in durability and affordability. Let's rewind to the automotive landscape of the late 90s. This was a time when Japanese automakers were steadily building a reputation for bulletproof quality. Honda had the Civic, Nissan had the Sentra, and Toyota had the Corolla. By 1998, the Corolla had already become one of the best-selling nameplates in the world. Toyota had sold more than 22 million Corollas globally since the model first launched in the mid-1960s. That level of success doesn't come from hype. It comes from building trust, and keeping it. So what exactly made the 1998 Toyota Corolla so beloved? Let's start under the hood. In North America, the standard engine was a 1.8-liter inline-4, part of Toyota's 1ZZFE family. It wasn't going to win any drag races, making just 120 horsepower and 122 pound-feet of torque, but it was smooth, efficient, and reliable. Fuel economy was a strong selling point. Drivers could expect well over 30 miles per gallon on the highway, even with the automatic transmission. What really set the 1ZZFE apart was Toyota's move to an all-aluminum block, lighter than the iron blocks used in previous generations, and the addition of modern fuel injection. This wasn't just about efficiency. It was about making a powertrain that would run trouble-free for hundreds of thousands of miles with just basic maintenance. Timing chain instead of a belt. Check. Simple layout for easy DIY work. You bet. And when you popped the hood, everything made sense. It was clear Toyota designed this car for longevity. Transmission options were straightforward, a 5-speed manual or a 4-speed automatic. While the automatic was more common, especially in the US, the manual version added a bit of liveliness to the driving experience. Neither setup was particularly sporty, but again, that wasn't the point. The goal was seamless, drama-free operation. And that's exactly what you got. Driving the 1998 Corolla is, admittedly, not an experience that will get your heart racing. The steering is light and predictable, the suspension is soft, and the brakes are decent but unremarkable. But there's a certain charm in its simplicity. The car doesn't fight you, it doesn't confuse you, and it doesn't surprise you. It's a car that lets you focus on the road without ever demanding your attention. That might sound boring to some, but to others, it's the definition of a perfect commuter car. Let's talk about the design. The 8th generation Corolla adopted a more rounded and refined look than the boxier models of the past. It was a clean, no-frills aesthetic. There were no aggressive creases, no bold flourishes, just smooth lines, subtle curves, and a stance that said, "I'm here to do my job." It wasn't the kind of car that turned heads, but it also didn't look cheap. That balance of modesty and maturity is part of what made it so appealing to a broad audience. Inside, the cabin echoed that same philosophy. Simple, functional, and built to last. You'd find soft-touch plastics where they mattered, straightforward climate controls, and gauges that were easy to read. No digital displays, no complicated interfaces, just analog simplicity. And that meant fewer things to break, fewer distractions, and a longer lifespan for the interior components. The seats were surprisingly comfortable, especially in the higher trims like the LE. And while the interior space wasn't exactly generous by today's standards, it was more than adequate for 4 adults, with enough trunk space to handle weekly groceries or a road trip's worth of luggage. The ergonomics were well thought out, too. Everything was where it should be. No hunting for switches. No fiddling with awkward placements. That kind of attention to detail made the car feel more intuitive, even if it lacked flair. Safety was another area where the 1998 Corolla made subtle but important strides. Dual front airbags came standard. Anti-lock brakes were available, though not standard on all trims. Crash test ratings were decent for the time, and Toyota had started building the Corolla with improved crumple zones and reinforced side structures to meet evolving safety standards. Again, it wasn't about flash, it was about function. And it did its job well. The 1998 Corolla came in a few basic trims: VE, CE, and LE. The base VE was pretty stripped down, with manual windows and minimal features. The CE added a few creature comforts, while the LE gave you more conveniences like power locks, air conditioning, and upgraded interior materials. But even in the base trim, you got what mattered most: solid build quality, efficient engineering, and a reputation for reliability that was second to none. One of the reasons the Corolla was so successful in this era is because it was such a global car. The same platform underpinned models sold in Japan, Europe, and the Americas. That global approach meant Toyota could spread out development costs and focus on refining a single formula rather than reinventing the wheel for each market. It also meant parts were widely available and inexpensive. That's part of why it's still common to see these cars on the road today. It's easy to look back at the 1998 Corolla and call it boring. And sure, from a performance enthusiast's perspective, it is. But that misses the point. The Corolla wasn't built for track days or canyon carving. It was built to be dependable. To start on the coldest mornings. To get you to work every day. To be the kind of car you'd pass down to a younger sibling or teach your kid to drive in. And for that role, it was perfect. There's a quiet kind of genius in making a car that never demands attention. A car that fades into the background, until it doesn't. Until years later, when it's still running strong with 250,000 miles on the odometer. That's when you remember why the Corolla earned its reputation. Let's talk about ownership. Ask anyone who owned a 1998 Corolla and you'll likely hear the same things. I never had to fix it, or, it just kept going. Oil changes, brake pads, tires, maybe a new battery every few years, and that was it. These cars didn't have the costly repairs or electrical gremlins that plagued some of their competitors. And they held their value shockingly well. Even today, a well-maintained 1998 Corolla can fetch decent money in the used market, especially among buyers looking for a cheap and reliable daily driver. In terms of manufacturing, many 1998 Corollas sold in North America were built in California at the NUMMI plant, a joint venture between Toyota and General Motors. That plant was a symbol of cross-cultural collaboration, blending Japanese production efficiency with American labor. And the results spoke for themselves. Build quality was consistently high, panel gaps were tight, and the cars rolled off the line with a level of consistency that even German automakers took note of. Of course, no car is perfect. The 1998 Corolla had its quirks. The suspension could feel a little floaty at higher speeds. The base model was Spartan to a fault. And while the engine was reliable, it wasn't the most refined or quiet. But those were minor trade-offs in a package that prioritized longevity and practicality. What's remarkable is how the Corolla has influenced the industry. It set the standard for what a compact car could and should be. It forced competitors to step up their game. And it helped cement Toyota's reputation as the go-to brand for reliability. The 1998 model was a continuation of that legacy, maybe not the most exciting chapter, but one of the most important. Fast forward to today, and the Corolla name still carries weight. It's evolved, of course, hybrid powertrains, advanced safety systems, even sporty trims, but the core philosophy hasn't changed. Make a car that people can count on. A car that doesn't pretend to be more than it is. That's the Corolla way. And it's a legacy that the 1998 model represents beautifully. For many, the 1998 Corolla was their first car. Or their parents' car. Or the car that showed them what dependable transportation looked like. It wasn't aspirational. It was accessible. And sometimes, that's more powerful than any badge or horsepower figure. There's a kind of nostalgia in the way that doors closed with a soft thud. In the faint whir of the 4-speed automatic as it climbed a hill. In the no-frills simplicity of a tape deck and a heater that worked every time. The 1998 Corolla wasn't just a car, it was a companion. Quiet, unassuming, and always there when you needed it. It's easy to overlook cars like the Corolla in an era dominated by electric platforms, over-the-air updates, and performance metrics that border on ridiculous. But sometimes it's worth stepping back and appreciating the engineering that goes into making a car that lasts. That doesn't try to do everything, but does the one thing that matters most better than anyone else, being there. Every day, without fail. That's the legacy of the 1998 Toyota Corolla. And that's why, even today, it still deserves our respect. Would you like this script formatted for a teleprompter or broken into voiceover segments for production?